hello to everyone, wherever you are joining us from this afternoon. It is the afternoon in Singapore. I do not know what time it is in your time zone, but particularly if you are staying up late to join us or waking up very early to join us, or wherever in the world you may be, we do appreciate your making time to be with us this afternoon. We are looking forward to guiding you through a little exploration of United World College of Southeast Asia in Singapore, and to helping you learn more about the admissions process in today's session. My name is Malika Ramdas and I'm Director of Admissions at the college. I have the great pleasure of working across both our campuses. We have our East Campus, which is our relatively newer campus, although it has existed for over a decade already. And it is situated in one of Singapore's fastest growing regions, which is also home to important landmarks like Changi Airport and Jewel. And then we have the Dover Campus, which is situated in the southwest part of Singapore and really in an educational hub surrounded by lots of other schools, polytechnics, and university campuses nearby. And as we celebrate our 50th anniversary this year, we are particularly excited to present to you our mission-driven and transformative educational community. So today's presentation is going to focus very much on sharing with you our admissions philosophy and process. And you will also have an opportunity to ask us any questions that you may have. You are welcome to start submitting your questions through the Q&A button that you will find at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So just take a moment to locate that. And we also have had lots of questions that came in advance when you registered for today's session. So again, thank you for that. And we will try and answer as many of your questions as we can. So we have an hour together today. We will spend about the first 30 minutes or so on a presentation, and then turn to question and answers. This presentation will be recorded and it will be available on our website, on the admissions website in a few days. So if you aren't able to stay for the end of the session, or if you're aware of people who weren't able to join today's session, then please do share that with them. And everyone who registered for today's webinar will get sent a recording of today's session. So my colleague Katie Phantom, who is our Deputy Director of Admissions, and I will be walking you through different parts of today's presentation. So we will sort of pass the mic backwards and forwards, as it were, and talk you through different aspects of information we would like to share with you. But although today's presentation focuses very much on admissions, I want to let everyone know that we have a series of virtual open days coming up to introduce you to both our campuses and the different school sections within them. Those will be led by our learning leadership team. So there will be a session on the learning program within each school and campus, followed by an opportunity to ask them questions. And all of those virtual open days for the individual schools will also include a question and answer opportunity with admissions with some of my colleagues and myself. So today then, our goal is to help you find answers to these two questions. Is Uwcsea the right school for us? And how does admissions work? Now, I think the answer to the first question for us lies in whether or not our core values resonate with you, with your child, with your family. And so I will just quickly show you what those core values are. Commitment, compassion, inclusion, integrity, openness, responsibility, and trust. So for us, it's really important that these values resonate with you. And we also believe that it's not just important to think about values as ideals or aspirations, but to try and live these values or convert them into lived reality. And so as part of the United World College movement of 18 colleges, we believe in this bold mission, which is to make education a force to unite people, nations, and cultures for peace and a sustainable future. And we empower our students, I think, to translate this mission into action in a variety of different ways, and really in their own way. They take ownership of this in their own way. And because this mission is so central to everything we do and to how we craft our learning program, in admissions, we in turn attempt to select for the mission. Oops, I jumped ahead of myself there. So how do we try and select for the mission? What I mean by that is that we really try and select students and families who are open to the kind of transformative educational experience that we offer and who have the potential to live up to our mission and values. So we're seeking to build an intentionally diverse college community in which our differences will challenge us to kind of push our thinking, help us grow as individuals, and as change makers in our societies. Now you can see, although it's in very small font, that the tagline for our 50th anniversary celebration year is "There is more in us." And that is really kind of the spirit of our mission, that we try and seek more families for when we're thinking about admissions. So now, as you can see in this photo, our students also have a lot of fun while learning more about themselves, about each other, and about the world around them. And they do all of this through what we call our concept-based learning program. So to give you a taste of what that is, I'm going to play you a short video now about our concept-based curriculum.
What is concept-based learning? Concept-based learning is centered around big ideas. Ideas so universal that they transfer across place, time, and situation. Content is important, so students must acquire knowledge and skills within each discipline. But the ability to make sense of their knowledge and skills in the world around them is just as important. This doesn't happen by accident. Students are given a variety of experiences so that they develop conceptual understandings, significant ideas that transfer to new contexts. This ensures that they thrive in a complex and unknown future. The Uwcsea concept-based curriculum leads to the IB diploma in grades 11 and 12 and is developed from our mission. Our educational goal is that students embrace challenge and take responsibility for shaping a better world. To do this, they must develop higher order thinking skills and apply their learning to diverse situations. Because our community is so international and diverse, our students bring a wide range of experiences, knowledge, and skills with them when they join us. A concept-based curriculum allows them to connect their prior learning to our experiences at school, as well as develop deep understanding. How do we develop conceptual understanding in our students? Concept-based learning goes hand in hand with learners having a diverse and broad range of experiences. This is achieved through all 5 elements of our holistic learning program: academics, activities, outdoor education, personal and social education, and service. We explicitly plan for concept-based learning by asking conceptual questions and teaching through inquiry, exposing students to content that stretches and deepens their thinking, fostering dialogue and collaboration, asking students to generalize and apply their ideas to new contexts. Together, these experiences support the development of conceptual understanding in our students.
So hopefully by now you have a good sense of our college mission, values, and learning program embedded or centered around that idea of the concept-based learning. And now I'm going to hand you over to my colleague, Katie, who will walk you through how our admissions process works. Over to you, Katie.
What is concept-based learning?
There we go.
Thank you, Malika. So we know that you are now very curious about how our admissions process works, and we hope to provide you with some clarity over these next few slides. So how does admissions work? What I'd like to start off by highlighting is what we are not based on with regards to our admissions process. We are not based on a first come, first serve, or academic rankings or quotas, and we don't have a rolling admissions process. And as Malika has touched on previously, what we do base our admissions process on is the mission. It is a mission-driven selection process which mirrors our holistic learning program. So let us explain a little bit more detailed with you about what that actually means. Next slide, please. So our entry criteria, like many schools, we have entry criteria, but here's what ours look like. So our approaches to learning, most important area of what we look at, is the student engaged and excited about their learning? We also look at attainment. We're not an academically selective school, but we do have a rigorous program and we want students to be able to thrive in it. So typically we look for students who are achieving within the middle to the upper bands of their current school's attainment levels. And we're looking at their interests and involvements. This is very important to us. Will this child take advantage of the opportunities that we have available? Will they look to challenge themselves? Will they take risks? Will they grow within our program? And for students applying for our middle school and our high school, do they have an understanding of Uwcsea and an appreciation of our values, our guiding statements, and also a potential to engage in the mission? Thank you, Malika. So what do we consider when we're reviewing applications? So we look at school reports, mainly, as I said before, about the approaches to learning. We look at any assessment outcomes for those students who need to take an assessment with us. So for example, students with English as a second language. And just please note that we don't interview students who are applying for K1 through to grade 8. And for those students who are applying for grade 6 and above, we ask for a student statement. We want to hear from the applicants themselves. And this is usually one of the most interesting and informative documents that we receive in the admissions submission. And this is a top tip to parents at this point. Please make sure that this is a very authentic student voice, not the parent's voice. And any other further information that is available to us. We want to know a little bit about your family and your interest in UWC. We're excited to understand how you're connecting with us and what attracts you to us. What do your values, how do your values and your missions align with us? Thank you, Monica. And then what do we consider for grade 9 through to grade 11? These are our high school applicants. We're looking a little bit more in-depth considerations for this group. And this includes the following: their intellectual motivation, their active commitment, their social competence, their resilience, their personal integrity, and their motivation for UWC. And how do we look for this? How do we consider this? Next slide, please. So we offer what's called an immersion program. Our high school student selection process is very much aligned to our mission and was informed by how our UWC scholars around the world are chosen. It is designed to be both holistic and immersive, where applicants spend time interacting with each other, with UWC's admissions office, and the academic staff, and our high school students themselves in one virtual immersion program. So there is an interview with a member of the academic team, which could be a principal, a vice principal, or a head of grade. And for our boarding applicants, it will be a member of the boarding team. So one of our directors of boarding or one of our boarding house parents. The students then get involved in a group activity, which is run by the admissions department and will involve students working together as a team. Then they move on to a discussion forum led by our high school student facilitators. And students get the chance to ask questions to our students at the end of this session. And then finally, assessments. If an assessment is needed, for example, an EAL assessment to determine whether a students take English as their second or their first language, and we may also require further information depending on the student's language choice. So now I'd like to hand back to Malika, who will talk a little bit more about how we create our community from our admissions pool. Malika.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, so, oops. let me try and advance my slide. Here we go. So when we're creating our community from our applicant pool, once students have fulfilled our our entry criteria, basically they go into what we call our applicant pool of eligible applicants. And then we select from that pool whom we will offer places to. And when we're doing that, we're really asking ourselves these two questions. Are we creating a community that is as diverse as possible? And obviously, when we do that, we are thinking about that in relation to our current student community. We're also asking ourselves, are we being as inclusive as we can responsibly be? And what I mean by that is that some students need more support or special kinds of learning support or additional English language support. So as long as we are able to provide those additional support needs, we are very happy to welcome students into our community. Okay, so how do we go about this? I first mentioned that we try and create as diverse a community as possible. And I want to spend a moment or two just talking about what we mean by diversity. So for a lot of people, that word in relation to an international school, often people jump to the conclusion that that only refers to passport nationalities. And while that is something that we look at, we're looking actually at the concept of diversity in the broadest possible sense. So here are some of the elements of diversity that we consider very important and that we're looking for when we're thinking about how we craft our community. We're thinking about students' academic interests and their personalities. Of course, the academic interests, particularly as they get into high school and are really kind of defining those for themselves and making choices about what they want to learn, what they want to study. We're looking at a range of different personality types. This is not a school simply for extroverts. In fact, if you had a classroom of only extroverts, that would be quite a challenge for most teachers. We want a balance because we want students to actually experience and grow up in what might mirror the real world that they will be going into later on. We're looking at the range of countries a student might have lived in. For some, that will be just one country, and that country will be Singapore. But equally, we have students who've lived in 2 or 3 or even more countries before they join us. We're looking at the gender balance in our community. We're looking at different ethnic backgrounds. We're looking at learning needs. And as I said before, whether or not we can support those learning needs. Cultural diversity is really important, and it gives us, our college and our community, an incredibly rich, flavor, if you like. We have students who have all kinds of different talents and skills, different kinds of educational backgrounds and histories. We are not only simply interested in students who have already been at an international school, although yes, we certainly admit lots of students who have. But we're also looking at students who might have experienced a local school system or their national school system. And actually having a mix of students from different backgrounds is what makes the community and the classroom more interesting. We're looking at students' extracurricular activities. We are trying, to the extent possible, to also include economic diversity in terms of family backgrounds. And one way in which we are able to do this is through our scholarship program for UWC National Committee's chosen scholars. You see a photo here of 4 of our most recent scholar arrivals on the Dover campus. We're looking at things like different religious backgrounds, of course, nationalities, as I mentioned before, as well as family backgrounds and linguistic profiles of students. So we are really proud to call ourselves a very multilingual community. And so that is, again, an important consideration. So really, we're thinking of diversity in the broadest possible sense of the word. So then, when it comes to selecting students for offer, what we're trying to do is look at our total pool of applicants who have met our entry criteria, which Katie outlined earlier. And then unfortunately, we never have as many places available as the number of applicants. And so we do have to make difficult choices. And these are the considerations then that we have to keep in mind when selecting from that bigger pool to fill the number of available spaces that we have. And typically we have about 2 to 3 as many applications as the number of places we have available. So we're looking for all those different kinds of diversity, but we also have what I can call certain demographic considerations, such as the age range of students for within each grade, according to our age grade boundaries. We're looking at the gender balance. We have to consider whether the applicant already has a sibling at the college, or indeed if there are siblings applying at the same time, and whether we have space availability for siblings across different grades. We have special consideration for alumni children, as well as for students who are returning to us after a period away, and reapplicants. And we certainly have students who reapply, or families who reapply if they weren't able to get a place the first time around. Now, for boarding applicants, we also have certain considerations around not just the number of boarding spaces available, but also very specific things like room configurations, which in fact vary across our campuses and things like that. So there are a number of things that we often describe this as a bit of a juggling act when we are selecting for from our bigger pool whom we can actually offer places to. And I know this is an aspect of our holistic admissions process that can seem hard to understand, because it isn't a simple yes, no when it comes to whether or not we're able to make an offer. Okay, so now I am going to move on to, I know, something that interests most of our applicants, which is our anticipated number of places for August 2022 entry. Now, I will say, and this is really important, that it can only be an estimate at this point. This is our best guess of the number of places we may have available. And that's because we have to estimate the number of withdrawals or leavers we may have from our current community in the course of this year. So here's what it looks like for Dover, for the Dover campus, the number of spaces by grade. So I'll just give you a moment to take a look at that. Now, I will remind you at this point that this whole presentation is being recorded and it will be on the website in a few days' time. So you can always revisit any part of the presentation that you would like to. And again, as I said, 2 to 3 applications per place is our typical ratio. There can be some grades that get very heavily subscribed. I will tell you that grade 1 almost always is one of those grades, where we normally have more like 4 to 5 applicants per place. And then this is what our anticipated places look like at the East Campus for next August. You will notice that there are a few grades where we have quite a small number of anticipated places. And this is because in those grades, we do not add a new class section. So we are completely dependent on the number of withdrawals we might have from current communities. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, and with that, I'm going to hand back to Katie to talk you through what the actual online application process looks like and a few other things. Over to you.
Thank you, Malika. Thank you very much. So now with all this information that you have, it's now time for you to consider whether to apply. So in order to apply, you can do so via our online application form on our website. And it's at this point that you need to decide whether you would like to apply to a single campus or to both campuses, both East and Dover. And that is called a dual application. If you decide on a dual application, be really sure that you're going to be happy to accept a place at either campus, as the campus you will receive an offer from is decided at the point of offer. What we also require you to do is to submit your school reports. So we require a minimum of 2 to 3 years of reports, and if necessary, please do translate them into English. And for applicants applying from grade 6 through to grade 11, we require you to upload the student statement. And again, just another important reminder that this must be in the student's voice and not the parent's voice. And then any further supporting information that is relevant to your child in the application process. So for example, if a student has any educational psychologist reports or speech therapist reports, please do upload those as part of the application submission. And then also the application fee needs to be paid to submit the application form. Thank you. So what can you expect from us through this process? So you can expect an email acknowledgement to confirm that your application has been successfully submitted. Then you will receive an outcome of the status of your application. So either an offer, an update of an offer, or at least an update of where your application is in the application process. And of course, you'll have continual support from your admissions officer who'll be helping you through this process. And please do not hesitate to contact them if you have any queries or any concerns. They will be there to support you and hold your hand all the way through this process. Thank you. So here's a quick overview of our timeline of applications and offers, starting from the 1st of September, which is when we opened our application process, through to the start of the academic year in August. I would just like to make a note at this point that if your application has met an application deadline, which is in red that you can see on this diagram, we may need a little bit more time to review your application, or the student may need to go through an assessment. So your application may not be considered in time for the offer round that you applied for. So for students that have been approved learning support or support for English as an additional language, those applicants are more likely to be considered for a second round offer, as our teams will have more clarity on the number of spaces that we have available for our new students joining us in August. And do note on this timeline that from approximately May to July, we will continue to make late offers when places do become available. So just breaking that down a little bit. So for entry into K1 through to grade 8, our offers are made in 2 offer rounds. So in December 2021 and March 2022. The application deadline dates for these offer rounds are the 5th of November 2021 and the 4th of February 2022. And again, for those students who are requiring EAL or learning support, those offers are more likely to take place in the second round of offers in March 2022. And again, any further late offers will be made ongoing from approximately May through to July. And then for our students applying into high school and into boarding from grade 8, our offers are made again in 2 offer rounds, but in January and in April. So note the application deadlines are exactly the same as our other offer rounds, which is the 5th of November and the 4th of February. And late offers will continue to be made for those grades through from about May till about July. And then we do actually have an additional offer round. So this offer round is for our term 2. So January 2023 is our next offer round. So we take students who were not able to be offered a place in August, and they have the option to remain in the pool for a term 2 entry, or you can choose to apply directly for a January term 2 entry as well. But do note that we only make offers for K1 through to grade 8 for a term 2 start in January. These offers are made in approximately mid to late August of the year before the January start. So at this point, I'd like to hand back to Malika, who's going to introduce our admissions team.
Thank you, Katie. I think Katie misspoke there for just a moment. So those January offers are actually made in mid to late October of 2022. No problem.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will now have the pleasure of introducing you to our admissions team. And here they are. This was actually the last time we were able to take a group photograph where we were socially distanced, but we were permitted to be unmasked for a brief moment for the photograph. My colleagues, we are a big team, as you can see. There are lots of people available to answer your questions and support you. There are admissions officers who are based on each campus, and when you submit your application, as Katie mentioned earlier, you will be assigned to an admissions officer to support you through your application process. Now, at the moment, obviously, unfortunately, we cannot have you visit campus, and nor can we have in-person meetings. However, we do have a way in which you can connect virtually with a member of our team. And so you can go onto our website and book that appointment quite easily online. So we encourage you to do that. You are also, of course, welcome to call or email, and somebody will get back to you. So that's our admissions team. And I want to actually close with this mural, with a photo of this mural, which you can now find on our Dover campus. And I want to tell you a little story about this mural, which to me serves as a bit of a metaphor for our college over its 50 years. So this mural depicts a chicken rice stall that students, generations of students have been frequenting, have been enjoying chicken rice, buying their chicken rice lunches or going after school. And it is a chicken rice stall across from the Dover campus in an HDB coffee shop. And for our 50th anniversary celebration, we commissioned a local artist, Jackson Sue, to paint this mural depicting the chicken rice stall, which originated in the 1970s, around the same time as the college did. And actually, we have a couple of wonderful YouTube videos on the college YouTube channel, which I welcome you to enjoy at your leisure. And in one of them, there is an interview with the artist, Jackson Sue. And in another, you can hear directly from the third generation stall owner, Mr. Alan Ho, who talks about, with great pride, about the different generations of UWC students that his family has been happy to feed their chicken rice to. And the reason I think of this as a lovely metaphor for our 50 years in existence is that, sort of like the chicken rice stall, which has passed from generation to generation, but still kind of retains its essential character. In a way, that's also true of the college. So while our physical structure may have changed, we may have grown to be 2 campuses from the original one. We may have changed specific elements of our learning program over time. But I think what is important is that our special flavor, our UWC SEA-ness, if you like, is really instantly recognizable and hasn't changed. And so I invite you to explore what that is. And I'm sure many of you already know people who are connected to the community. And of course, we hope that your interest in becoming part of this community has been further